Yeah, hello. Nice to see some people here, actually, at this time, I mean. And thanks to Maxon for having me here. This means a lot to me because I usually only know these talks from the other end by watching them on my screen at home. Yeah, my name is Ben, and I want to talk to you about Character Creator and Cinema 4D, specifically about how to get from one to the other and some tools I developed to enhance this experience. I will start with a brief introduction of myself before I quickly get over to Character Creator to tell you, for those of you who don't know what it actually is, and then I'm going to show you my workflow going from CC4 to C4D. My name is Benjamin. Again, I'm a 3D artist from Berlin. I originally started out in graphic design and illustration, and but by discovering Cinema 4D in my apprenticeship in the early 2000s, I was hooked, and then by studying integrated design at Anhalt University, I took the reroute into 3D, and after some years of freelancing, I met the very nice people of Woodblock, and since 2020, I'm working there full-time as a 3D artist and sometimes creative director. So let me quickly go ahead and show you our reel. Yeah, regarding my work, as I come from graphic design, illustration, I have a big fable for all things stylized, also coming from reading a lot of comic books as a kid and watching cartoons. And yeah, I also always was interested in creating characters and the whole character pipeline from sculpting to modeling over to rigging. And since joining Woodblock, I had the pleasure to work on multiple character-driven projects, which really helped me to refine my own skills and my workflows. And also during these projects, I realized I like the creative parts of the pipeline way more than the technical but necessary tasks like having a clean topology, UV mapping, bone creation, skinning, and rigging, and creating a control rig for a character or even a face rig is still a semi-complex task, even with Cinema 4D's amazing character templates, which I also used extensively in the past. But yeah, those technical aspects are necessary when you want to have a professional character pipeline. And about 2 years ago, we've been researching for a project several options of character generation, and that's when we came about Character Creator. What is Character Creator? Character Creator allows basically the quick generation, the import, and the modification of realistic to stylized characters, and to export them as FBX, to Cinema 4D, to Blender, to Unreal, or whatever DCC you like. The major benefit of Character Creator is that you already start with a UDIM-ready base mesh that has a proper topology and that is already skinned to a skeleton. And it also comes with 140 plus facial pose morphs out of the box, which make it animation ready for facial animation out of the box. You could go ahead and modify this base mesh directly in Character Creator, or you can export it to ZBrush via the GoZ function, or export it to any DCC you like. We already used this workflow in some of our most recent projects, and also for the last 2 years, we experimented a lot with it to see what is possible. And for the first project, we used the amazing pipeline tools from Character Creator for Unreal Engine, because this was a project using a complete real-time character that was then controlled with a rokoko smart suit and did multiple live streams on Twitch. And yeah, we also discovered the amazing pipeline tools for Blender, but that raised the question for me as a native Cinema user, not born, but definitely raised inside Cinema. Why does something like this not exist for Cinema 4D? So this led me to the idea of creating a solution for it. Also, I always wanted to refine my Python and coding skills in Cinema, so I started building a first rig and developed some scripts. And after 1.5 years of tinkering, I had a first small toolbox ready, and I named it CC4D Tools, which just felt obvious. Right now, it consists of like 3 major components, which are like the control rig and the setup for the body rig, the face rig and its setup, and most recently, I also added the auto material setup for Redshift. Then there are also some small animation tools, which are basically there to help and streamline the importing of animation data for the body and the face, and to retarget it directly to the controls of the rig. And then there are some helper tools to optimize the joint hierarchy and stuff, but let's just go ahead and show you. So, oh no, it's already here. So let's say I have this character in Character Creator, and what I would like to show you now is how to get from this to a fully rigged and shaded render-ready character in Cinema 4D, and how my tools can help you setting things up and enhance the overall process. The first step would be to export this as an FBX and then go to Cinema, which I have already done in a few seconds. Talking too fast. Yeah, there's the file in Cinema, just imported with the default import settings of Cinema. But before looking at the file, I will quickly open up the toolbar of the CC4D Tools. And this is not really a plugin, it's more a collection of assets that live in the asset browser and some scripts that live in the user preferences folder. So the toolbar can be found in the asset browser as well. So now let's have a look at the file. Apart from the materials that do not look correct right now, but we will fix this in a minute. There are several other issues with an FBX file from Character Creator that doesn't make this a very user-friendly experience to work with out of the box. The first issue is that when I unfold the joint hierarchy, I can see that most of the, or that all of the tip joints and also some other joints in the hierarchy are actually null objects and not joints. And also those null objects may have skin weights attached to it, and everything would work properly, but it's simply not a clean joint hierarchy. So the convert nulls to joints tool can easily fix this. Automatically, it will convert all the null objects back to joints and also transfer over the skin weights attached to them. So now you can see it's all joints again, and that's how the hierarchy should look like. The second little issue is not that obvious, therefore I have to inspect the file a bit. And even though I can only see 11 meshes in the object manager and in the viewport, there are way more meshes in the scene, actually over 600. And those meshes are children of the character's geometry, and they are all morph targets for the character's facial pose morphs and other morphs. But they are not really necessary for the pose morphs to work. They just make the file heavier. So removing this manually can be very tedious because this is also not super straightforward. I would have to go into each pose morph, set it to the edit mode. Then I would have to select the morph I want to remove the morph target from, activate it, and then I would be able to clear out the morph target to be able to remove the geometry and keeping the pose morph intact. So again, with 600 meshes in a scene, this can be very time-consuming. So the second little helper tool is the remove morph targets tool, and that will remove all the morph targets in the scene for all the pose morphs. And in the end, when I inspect the file again, I have a clean file, I have only 11 meshes, and that's what I want. So the last, and now the pose morphs will also work as expected, you know. And the last little tool I want to show here is the optimized joints tool. And as the name says, this simply prepares the joint hierarchy, optimizes it for the appliance of the control rigs. It makes sure all joints are aligned, and especially the twist joints are in the right spot. And it will also check the joint chains of the arms, legs, and fingers. They have a slight bend to it, so the IK systems of the rig can work correctly. And there's nothing to see here. But before applying the rigs now, let's have a quick look at the materials. And to actually be able to preview this, I'm gonna add a quick 3-point lighting setup to the scene. And then let's have a look at the out-of-the-box render result. And as you can see, there's definitely some issues with the materials. Not only in the viewport. And when we take a look also at the default material shader graph, we can see, okay, there are some textures in there, but it's only a fraction of the textures actually exported from Character Creator. And some of the textures may also be in the completely wrong input. So this is an opacity map, not a transmission map. But the auto material setup can take care of that once I click, or basically it will replace all of the character's materials with some predefined material templates from the asset browser again, and then update the reference in the material tags and import all of the character's textures exported from Character Creator. when I click the icon, I have the option to select between two material types. That would be the basic material, which are some very basic node graphs, and the advanced materials, which are a bit more sophisticated and customized, and they allow the importing of also the material parameters exported from character creator through a JSON configuration file. But for now, let's stick with the basic materials. And have a look how this looks rendered. And you can see there's already a big difference to the default materials. Everything looks at least correct now. The hair, the eyes, and the characters basically ready to render at this point. And when I take a look at the material graph right now, I can see, okay, there are more textures in there, as well as some basic node graphs using the standard shader. And now I will do the same thing again. I will run the material setup again. But this time, I'm going to choose the advanced type. And again, this will simply replace the existing materials in the scene with the advanced material templates from the asset browser. And in the viewport, it may not be a big difference, but in the render view, you can definitely see, okay, it's using some subsurface scattering as well as some more advanced parameters. And a quick look at the shader graph also shows that there are now really all of the textures from Character Creator are in there. Next to the basic material textures, there are also some utility textures in there, as well as a custom CC4D shader group holding a custom node graph with custom parameters to resemble the shaders from Character Creator as closely as possible to be able to import the parameters through a JSON configuration file. And those parameters can also be found when the material is selected in the Material Manager and under the Inputs tab. And here you can really tweak the materials and their parameters as nearly as you can in Character Creator. So yeah, now that this character is probably shaded, this brings me to like the main components of this tool set, which are the control rigs for the body and the face. They can be quickly added to the scene with the icon in the toolbar, and this will pull the rig from the asset browser. And once the rig is in the scene, I can run the setup, and this will snap everything into place and connect the rig to the joint hierarchy of the character. This process is completely non-destructive, which means when I make at least the hierarchy visible in the object manager, you can see, okay, the character's joint hierarchy stays intact, and the skin weights of the character remain unchanged. To the rig itself, it's equipped with IK and FK setups for both the arms, legs, for the spine and the fingers. I won't go into the details, but it's a classic bipedal rig. I tried to keep it as universal as possible. And it's also hugely inspired by all the Cinema 4D rigging example files that and example character rigs that can be found in the asset browser, because I only learned so much by simply dissecting those scenes and to see how they work. For the face rig, it's basically the same process. You can add the face rig to the scene by clicking the icon in the toolbar, and running its setup will snap everything into place. The script also recognized the CC base body mesh, which I mentioned earlier, and based on its name and its vertex index, and it directly snapped certain controls directly into place. So no matter what the character's facial proportions are, they will always be in the right spot out of the box. And again, the face rig is simply an extension of the facial profile that was set up in Character Creator, and it uses those pose morphs exported from Character Creator and simply adds a more usable and user-friendly interface on top of it. And once the rigs are in place, you can start posing or animating your character. But all those steps I just showed you can be even more simplified and automated within one tool, and that is the import character tool. This lets me directly select the FBX file, and it will then, in the import setting, I can decide if I want to import it with pose morphs, if I want to remove the morph targets from the character, if I want to import it with materials, if I want to use the basic or the advanced materials, and if I want to apply the body and the facial rig directly on the import. So this tool will now utilize all the other scripts I just run you through. It will optimize the hierarchy, replace all the unnecessary null objects, and remove the morph targets before it applies the control rigs to the character, and then replaces all of the character's materials. Yeah, and within a few clicks, you have your character creator character ready for animation and rendering in Cinema 4D. But those rigs and tools can not only work with characters that were generated in Character Creator, it will also work with custom characters, for example, that were only rigged in Character Creator using the built-in AccuRig system or the free standalone version of AccuRig. So let's say I have this little character that was created by my dear colleague Alexander Dietrich, probably in ZBrush, and I want to rig him now. All I would have to do is to export this as an FBX file. And then quickly run it through AccuRig. For those of you who don't know what AccuRig is basically working like the mixamo auto-rigging system, but on steroids, because you have way more control over where and how to place your markers, and you can always go back a step and refine things. So this is the process of about 10 minutes. And then you can export it again as an FBX file. And here's the file back in Cinema. I already cleaned up the file hierarchy by removing all the null objects and optimizing the joint hierarchy. And additionally to that, I added in the backpack of the character using Cinema 4D's property transfer tool that can be found under the character tab. and I also smoothed out the weights created by AccuRig just a little bit. So, but other than that, I can directly go ahead and add my control rig to the scene and apply it to this character. Yeah, now I could go ahead and animate this character, and this is actually what I'm going to do now. And this, with this, I'm going to show the next part of this small toolbox, which are the animation tools. The first tool I'm going to use for this is the import body motion tool. This tool is designed to help speed up the process of importing, retargeting animation data coming from different sources like iClone, Rokoko Studio, Move AI, or other tools to create mocap data. To use it, I have to select the root object of my control rig and click the import body motion icon. And here I could now select an FBX file, and the script will then only import the animated joint hierarchy from that file. But I don't want to do that because I can also retarget or use animation data that can be found in Cinema 4D's huge motion capture library living in the asset browser. So I will quickly add that to the scene, like using this running jump loop. And here it is in the scene. You can see the animation now. The only thing I'm going to do now, I will move the animation out of this motion offset null object just to have it running in place for now. And now I'm going to select the animated hierarchy as well as the root object of my control rig. And then I'm going to click the import body motion icon again. This time no file dialog opened up because the script found an animated joint hierarchy within the selection, but two things did happen. The first thing that happened is that both hierarchies have gotten a character definition tag added to it, but I can remove the one on the animated hierarchy again because there is already one in place out of the box. And the second thing that happened is that the control rig and its settings have automatically been prepared for retargeting, which means all of the characters' limbs have been set from IK to FK mode, which is necessary for retargeting. And now the only thing I have to adjust are the reference poses for both of the characters. For the animated hierarchy, it already has a reference pose, so I can simply go to that reference pose. And the only thing I'm going to adjust is to rotate the arms down a bit to match the reference pose of my character. And then I can set the reference pose again. And for the control rig hierarchy, I have to set up the character definition first, but I can do that by opening the character definition manager and then simply loading a preset from the asset browser, and then I will extract the skeleton, or rather the control objects, as it's not using the skeleton. And yeah, with that, everything is in place. I can create a solver tag, link both character definitions, and when I hit play now, I can see that the character is moving. So now, to also take the earlier mentioned motion offset into account, I will go back to remove the solver and set both hierarchies back to the reference pose. And then I will only adjust the definition of the animated hierarchy slightly by opening the manager again, and then simply replacing the hip joint, which is set as the root object, with this motion offset null object. And then I can set the reference pose again. For the control rig hierarchy, the master control is already set up as the root object of the character, so no changes here. And I can simply create a new solver tag, link the hierarchies again, and if I hit play now, the character is moving in space. Yeah, now I could go ahead and bake this down to the controls of the control object, and then modify the animation or the animation curves, for example, through the timeline with the amazing keyframe reduction tool that also has been updated in one of the recent versions, and it's really doing a good job now. Or I could use it as a motion clip within the motion system of Cinema 4D and then simply modify the base animation by adding animation layers on top of it. And yeah, the last tool I want to show you is the import face motion tool. It works similar. To use it, I have to select the, or first of all, with this tool, I can import a mesh with an animated pose morph tag, coming, for example, from iClone or Rokoko Studio. To use it, I have to select the root object of my face rig, and here I could select an FBX file, which holds like a mesh with an animated pose morph tag. But I also don't want to do that now because I can also retarget animation data coming from the Moves by Maxon app. And that's actually what I'm going to show you. I cannot import Maxon Moves data through the import body motion tool because I have to import it through the Moves by Maxon app. And I already did that. And here you can see a very, very basic capture I did myself. And yeah. Again, all I need is a mesh with an animated pose morph tag. And I can quickly create this by selecting the moves object. And on the bottom, I have a button, Create Pose Morph. This will create a second mesh. And through the Moves Helper tag, I can bake the blend shapes. And if I select the Pose Morph tag and set it to Animate and hit play, I can see I have animation tracks on there, even though in the viewport there's no animation on the mesh. But that's all we need. So I'm going ahead and copying this to my scene. It will be pasted in at the bottom, but that's not really important. So now with this pasted in mesh selected, I'm also gonna add again the root object of my face rig to the selection and then simply click the import face motion tool again. And this also did not open up a file dialog this time because there was a mesh with a pose morph tag and a facial profile the system knows, recognized. So the retargeting has been activated automatically. And yeah, once I hit play now, you can see that the animation is retargeted to the actual character. Yeah, and so now I can also go ahead, or will go ahead, and bake this down to the control objects. I will just shorten the timeline real quick, just to make it a bit faster. And for baking this down, I will use the the CC4D bake tool, but why a dedicated bake tool for this? I could also do this with the bake tool through Cinema 4D's timeline, but this is just a tool to simplify this process a little bit more by only having to select one object, and it will also then deactivate the retargeting again and remove the retarget source from the scene. And now everything is baked down to the control objects. Yeah, the CC4D tools really streamline the workflow when working with character creators in Cinema 4D or AccuRig characters in Cinema 4D. My goal was to really close the gaps between both applications by automating all the manual and time-consuming tasks and like cleaning up the joint hierarchy and setting up the materials and rigs and allowing more focus on the creative parts of the project. And how you, the great thing about Character Creator is how you create your actual character if you use CC4 and modify the characters directly, or if you're using ZBrush, or if you're like me who likes to model in Cinema 4D, the polypen, the volume builder, the grab brush, and the FFD deformer completely changed my modeling workflow. And yeah, and then taking the base mesh from Character Creator and simply shrink wrapping it to your model or to your sculpt. Yeah, that's the polypen. It's really powerful. Yeah, and with this workflow, by integrating Character Creator with those tools, Character Creator can easily be implemented into existing modeling and asset pipelines, and you can really create all different kinds of characters with it, from realistic to stylized. The next steps for me on my roadmap are the integration of non-standard joint hierarchies, because right now it only supports the specific joint hierarchy created by Character Creator or AccuRig, and in terms of its structure and naming conventions, as well as a more streamlined export tool workflow back to Character Creator to make the round trip complete, and of course refining the existing tools and rigs. And for those of you interested, wait a minute. You can find more links. So here are some links to my Gumroad, as well to my Instagram profile, and also to the website of our amazing studio. And yeah, thank you for your time and attention today. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback, and happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks. Any questions? No? I'm not a Maya user. There you would have to talk to someone who knows Maya. What coding language do you use? Python. Python works in Maya too. But I don't know Maya. Yeah, I know. I think they also have pipeline tools for 3ds Max, but I'm not sure about Maya. Yeah. Okay. Then that's it.